So, welcome, thanks for coming. Seen this one, had some chance to review it. It's Bluestone Trail, formerly 7200 Rawson Road. Applicant is requesting preliminary approval to develop a 59 for sale townhome unit subdivision on 18.5 acres. Project will consist of 2 private roads off the north side of the Rawson Road. This will be the second step in a 3-step process for a major subdivision. Sketch plan was acknowledged on April 9th, 2024. Don't believe we have any representatives from this project, obviously here. Any board comments? I think at this point we're acknowledging the application at this point. Any additional comments?
I mean, I don't remember reviewing it last year, but I know there's a lot of questions I feel, and so I was hoping someone would be here, but just see if they had followed up on those actions. Yeah, but that was one question, comment, I guess you could say I had.
And I was just wondering, I saw in the packet that I think it was Fire mentioned that the road isn't wide enough.
Yeah.
I think it was Fire that said it wasn't wide enough, so I was just wondering when they account for that, are they gonna have to push? I mean, they're not gonna be able to push any closer to the wetlands, so I don't know if that kind of necessitate them changing their design, but them here, it's hard to ask, but just noted that road has to be, I think it was 4 feet wider, 2 feet wider or 4 feet wider.
Oh, I do remember the comment,
Right.
but
So you gotta think both roads as they come in, if those were both wider, that's gonna move them a bunch closer, so. Wasn't sure how they're addressing that. That was it for me.
okay. Yeah, another 4 feet wider.
4 feet, right? So if both of those private roads have to be 4 feet wider, I'm not sure what that's gonna do with phase 1 there.
Yeah, I'd say my only concern would be that and
I need it.
I don't think so.
the fill part of it.
Does it show up?
I noticed some notice, I think it was from 2015 on the fill, but I didn't notice anything more
No, it's-
recent.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they had 2014, 2015. The fill applications.
Well, with representatives from this project here, I guess our questions will remain unanswered.
What was the action? Just acknowledge that it's,
Suppose, yeah, that we're on step 2 of 3.
When they're approval, yeah.
they were acknowledging. So
We,
what questions?
yeah, we have any interest in walking.
Probably. Yeah, it looks pretty fairly benign, yeah, very flat, very, no. There's no water districts or anything, no wetlands, but yeah, from the fill perspective, it might make. That's looks.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, well, we will pass those comments and questions along for our response. We'll move along to the Hardy subdivision.
Will you ask any
Oh, yes,
questions? I had a couple questions, Marcia Sengus.
Oops, I'm sorry,
You
Marcia.
have
Didn't know that
probably
was
get the
the board.
email.
Yeah, some of those are questions, obviously, that the planning board will review. But we're really concerned conservation wise, and that's why I've tried to include you guys, even back when the rezoning was being done. It seemed to me that particularly with the wetlands, that the conservation board needs to be part of, and notified. There was quite a lot of fill that was brought in previously. It's 42,000 cubic yards is what originally was approved to be brought in. And that was going to be 4,200 truckloads, 10 cubic yards. I mean, you know the math better than I, you guys do cubic yards more than I do. And a number of trucks were coming and were coming and were coming. And then we know that 42,000, or excuse me, 4,200 trucks didn't come in yet. We've tried to find out, how much actually was brought in. Everything kind of came to a standstill. So we have no idea. We've asked, how much has been brought in. Didn't really get an answer. More recently, either the town board or planning board, either Dave or somebody else has said, how much more fill do you anticipate coming in? And we really haven't gotten an answer about that. The concern is, and it would be a good idea to walk it because parts of it are level, but it kind of really, there's the part that they kind of filled. And then there's kind of a big, not a gully, but a drop off to over here where the warehouse is. But then as you come off this fill part over toward the wetlands, then it kind of drops off. And initially they were going to put in those 8 single-family homes on the curve. I'm not sure if you were aware. Okay,
Pointer would be
if you take your
valuable.
pointer, and see where the word Rawson Road is? Kind of right to the, like, south of the wetlands where it says the word
Yes.
Rawson Road.
Shoot against the black, but not against the white.
Jiggle it.
Yeah, so it's here. See it on the black,
Where is
but
No, it's.
It's
just
just
doesn't
displaying well.
Well, you can see where the word Rawson Road is, kind of up there in the northwest of it. There were to originally have been 8 single-family homes right there. And this particular map doesn't show, and I don't know if you travel Rawson at all, but there's a fairly curvy, steep section right there. So originally, those 8 houses were to have been right there at that curve. The gentleman who lives kind of across from where the R is in Rawson has lived here for a long time, long before the Drumlins even existed. And he'd written quite a few letters regarding some pretty serious accidents that happened. Anyhow, long story short, the eight single-family homes were withdrawn from the original application, and then they went with just the townhomes. But between where the kind of path that's been put in and where the wetlands are, there's gonna need to be fill. And so we're trying to find out respectfully, how much more fill is needed there. So that's kind of one concern. The other thing is kind of a strange thing. I'd gone to some of the meetings when they were talking about the new highway department, possibly being located on Brace Road. There was, back in December, there was a resolution that was approved to purchase I forgot how many acres there on Brace Road for the new highway department. And one of the handouts that have been provided to the community talked about the 8 other facilities or 8 other locations that had been considered for what we really do need. We do need a updated highway department. And actually, the 72 Rawson Road was one of the 8 considerations quite some time ago, years ago. I think COVID hit, and Susie would probably know better, but anyhow, I believe when they were doing the negotiations with the landowners, they couldn't come up with a mutually agreeable price. But in the write-up that Labella passed out, they said here, about 7,200, the site has the benefit of keeping the existing plow routes. The property would need to be purchased and subdivided. There are wetlands on the site. This is what I didn't quite understand. And the soil that was stockpiled there, and that would have been part of that 42,000 cubic yards that had already been brought in. The soil that was stockpiled there would have to be removed and reworked. It's also located across from a residential area. So I never heard anything about soil having to be taken out, and I didn't know what rework meant. But what concerned me was if they were seriously considering putting the DPW headquarters there, and you had to take the soil out to be reworked. But now you're looking to put in a residential development in there. Do you have to take the soil out and rework, whatever that means? Do you have to take the soil out and rework? But nobody's talking about that at the meetings. So it seemed to me this was something pretty important to share with you guys, which we probably already know from all this, but I had never heard of this when they've talked about the development. It only came up when they were talking about the DPW thing. So it was just something that I would be interested in knowing more about. In addition, you know, everybody's concerned about the wetlands, but I didn't know what reworked. Do you know what reworked means? I don't know what, I'm not
No,
familiar with
I
that.
don't think, you know, in my reading through the documents, it's not being proposed that fill would be removed for this project. I think it's a valid point. You know, maybe, you know, one of our comments, I assume there's a date on the Bella's letter there.
I can give you that. It's just got my scribbles.
Maybe we'll just make a note, you know, because the Bella, you know, can probably clarify what their,
What that means.
yeah, what the thought was then versus now. I mean, maybe it's the size of the, you know, dump trucks that the highway department uses or something like that.
I think
It's
the
June
land use
23rd.
purpose, based on what they're using it for, then they'll have to realize if the soil is good enough for compaction, what happens. So it's based on what they're using the land for. That
It
would be
just
my
seemed like
guess.
if you're putting residential in, which would be kind of a different level than your highway trucks. I don't know. It was just something I wanted to bring up. And I guess the other thing that maybe you've already heard too, that kind of came out at the last planning board meeting when they approved the complete application was that there was concern, the village has said the village can't accept the sewage from here. So, I mean, I know there have been, we've been involved in board meetings for a while, and the sewage issue has not been something that's just like 2 or 3 years old. It's been longer than that, and the village has been very frank about we don't have the capacity, and of course, now they're putting in that 112 unit apartment, so the village is gonna take their own village land before they're gonna take
Sure.
shit from
Yeah. Also.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, and I know at the last planning board meeting, they were talking about some options and it got a little bit over my head. It sounded like they were gonna have to maybe send it back to something that's up by Delta Sonic and then from there go to Farmington. But I mean, that's a big issue. I don't know how that interfaces with the conservation board at all. But it's a concern. I mean, you can't be putting in 59 homes and not have a plan for
Yeah,
Yeah.
sewage.
no doubt.
Those were
Yeah.
just my points. So thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for bringing them to light. I think the other thing that you noted was just the screening that was between the hiking trail and the homes, because it's a nice area now. And certainly as we move throughout the process, we would suggest additional and ample screening.
For both the homeowners
That's sure.
and the trail people. I have several friends who use the trail all the time and they were surprised. Now, this particular I think they had 11 pages in their application. So this does show some border between the townhomes, the back of the townhomes and the warehouse, but it doesn't show anything along.
Yeah.
And it may be that this is not a landscaping
Yes.
document either, but I didn't have a landscaping document, but it did show between the townhomes and the office warehouse, but nothing. I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything in all of.
Yeah, that was the only landscaping that I had noted as well, and there were comments, a consultant on, you know, what size tree and the, you know, spacing
Type of
used and that sort of thing, but it just pertained to kind of the screening between the warehouse and those townhomes, so nothing along the trail.
I think when they've made presentations, if I'm not mistaken, they've talked about, I think they actually moved the townhomes that are like closest to Ross and in a little bit so that they could do some landscaping, which sounded to me like it was more than what's depicted on here too. But like I said, I don't know that any of these are the landscaping drawings or whatever, renderings. Or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
It would be nice, particularly with the trail being what it is now, folks who use it and really look forward to that rather than walking along somebody's backyards.
If I may ask a question just for clarification so that as we review it, we make sure we are able to probably address your concern or answer your question. In regards to the amount of quote unquote outstanding fill that needs to be deposited. Is your question to see how much fill that is still left to make sure that the land is leveled out properly? Or you just want to know how much was actually done? It's a matter of
Good
what
question.
was the real, what is the
What's
most?
my question?
Yeah,
Well, good query from you. I guess both ways. It's hard for us to know how much based on the trucks that have already been coming in. I mean, are we like a third done? Are we 2/3 done? Are we, nowhere near, because they basically have brought in enough fill to kind of make an area for the trucks to come in on. So I mean, I haven't walked the property, but I know there's, it's not level. I mean, they've filled this in and then there's this kind of dip between where it would be wherever the part that they filled in over to where the warehouse is. And then to the left, I think there's a lot of room that would need to be filled in between where they have this driveway thing. So to answer your question, I guess two things. Yes, how much more are we doing? And, how level, I mean, it's got to be fairly level. Dave has, I think, a concern about basements too, because they have told us that these will definitely all have basements. So you're dealing with basements, but yet you're dealing with wetlands. And I live over in the drumlins up in where the houses are in between the newer drumlins and the village drumlins. And I know that the two homes, as you're coming in off of Wellington, on the left and on the right, were, if you look at the old maps, I don't know if they're state wetlands or federal wetlands or what. But when those homes were built, they had a pumping water out of those basements for days. And then when people moved in, there was kind of a surprise, like, oh, we have a very wet basement here. And people knew all along. I mean, that was a given. So now you're talking about putting in homes up by those wetlands, which you've said right from the beginning, will have basements. But your question,
a takeaway would be to do another perk test, right? Because I think that those perk tests were 15 or so. I think we brought up to the engineer when he was here. So we'll bring that comment forward as well.
And then going back to the fill or keeping with the fill, it sounds like part of your concern might be how much disruption maybe to the
wetlands.
well, more to the residents nearby is the 6 months of trucks going
Oh, the
5 times a
timing.
day,
Right.
or so is that part
I
of
think
what the
it's-
concern
It
is?
would still be, because, I mean, when you hear of 40 or 4,200 trucks, I mean, that's beyond my comprehension. That's a lot of trucks. And I don't know, I mean, I don't stay in my house all day and I certainly don't sit down on Rawson Road counting trucks. But I mean, I don't even know if there were 1,000 trucks when they started bringing in fill. And I can't remember why all of a sudden the fill stopped. Do you remember? I mean, they were doing it regularly and they had certain hours that were really good because they were doing it, within reasonable hours. And I think not on Saturday, and they were very cooperative about bringing the fill in. I would say that it wasn't very much compared to 4,000 trucks, but I mean, what they did, and they were responsible about keeping the road clean and, the water and whatever you have to periods to do.
Sure.
So, I mean, they were very responsible, but yeah, I mean, are we a little bit of, or is it gonna go on for? Because they can't do anything till the fill is in, really, I don't think. Even, you know, I know they want to start with phase one closer to the wetlands and further away from the office building. So that means
Yeah.
coming in and putting the fill, which makes sense, furthest away from the entrance. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. We just, I think, want to make sure that we understand your concerns to make sure that, you know, they are noted in our comments up to the.
No, I mean, many of the folks who live there, we've lived there 35 years and we've always known of the wetlands and we've always known, depending on the weather, you know, if you have a heavy snow or you have a lot of rains in the spring. I mean, the wetlands back there really, really change a lot from like practically nothing to, you know, a lot of serious water situations. So we appreciate them trying to be careful.
Likewise.
Did you want to ask your?
Sorry. Cooper. I'm picturing you have a lantern up there. I'm assuming that's gonna be on, street lights somewheres?
I'm not sure. That wouldn't necessarily kind of, wouldn't necessarily be conservation board
Yeah.
concern
Because
or
it's not dark
under the
sky.
purview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not certain about that, but
Okay,
perhaps.
I'll move things along, I'm sorry. The boundary between,
Yeah.
there's no recordings here, is there, that I can move around?
Oh, they're not gonna see you, but.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they can't be more than maybe 15, 20 foot.
There's a setback, there'll be a setback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever the setback is, they
The
have.
trees, I mean, they're not gonna be 20, 30 foot trees.
think
It's gonna take 20, 30 years before there's any kind of, you know, block to the warehouse, but of course, that's whoever buys the house, that's
Yeah.
their business,
Yeah.
you know? But this whole area, you probably know, is a gully. Okay, here's would you know how far in these homes start from the road?
There's also a setback for that, so that there's a specific amount that they have to be set back
30
in the
feet probably.
village. Yeah, I'm not sure what the setback
I'm
was.
not
It's
certain
not
either, but
also not us, but yes, it's set that there have to be a certain
And
amount.
this is the backyard,
Mhm.
so maybe 10, 20 foot, I don't know. But yeah, these would be kind of conducive for walkout basements. I don't, maybe here too, but it's all in here, not. But it's so low, there's got to be at least 5 foot of fill before you even think about doing anything. And that's a big stretch.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's at least, you know, 200-300 truckloads more to be brought in,
Yeah.
but
Well-
nobody,
I mean, that's a cost that the builder would have to figure in, and if it still makes sense for them to pay to bring all that fill in and still think they can make a profit on selling a house,
Right.
they will. If they can't, then
it seems so costly on so many things here. One other question, I won't bother you, I don't, guy has to sit down, he talks too much. Here's the front here, here's the front, and the view that goes. This is the back here. Here's the back.
Yeah.
Will there be a drainage in here, grates? Because the water's gonna, from each house is gonna come down, I'm assuming this way. And that's kind of prone, and the gutters, do the gutters, would you know, do they vent out topically or do they go into the storm sewer itself?
Probably in the strong.
You think so?
Was the case,
Okay.
but we can certainly make certain.
Yeah, I don't mean to make you work for it, I'm just, you know,
There's a
Good
valid
question.
runoff certainly is a concern for us in all projects.
the area, some places, I mean, there's standing water right now. The perk, with all that that's brought in, I mean, it can't all be, you know, eat the same perk. I mean, some places can perk better than others.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so one of our comments would be to update the perk tests. Because I think they were quite dated, but
Okay,
additionally, to Mark.
maybe before the most recent,
Yeah. Which would
soil brought in.
lend itself to if more fill will be brought in.
Yeah.
Should then.
It's a nightmare, I think.
So there's quite the project.
Yeah.
So our comments will certainly pass those along, but I think it would be wise for us to take a walk at that property just to get a.
I have,
Yeah,
I said you wanna look at it.
Yeah, driving by, I can see where the fill sort of stopped.
Right, it's like a
Yeah.
driveway kind of coming in there, and then it drops
Yeah.
off on either side, and then it's the other, like, between the end of the driveway and Auburn Trail, too,
Right,
kind of like a raised.
some space there, yeah, so. We'll bring those questions to the board,
Thank you.
request responses from the engineer and we'll find some time to get out there and walk it.
Yeah, I think that'd be,
There is a stormwater management plan or area that's off the map there.
That's what I was looking at.
If you look on the site plan, there is one, and I'm gonna guess that
so you go
everything
back to,
flows back
Which
in to
one?
I
that.
don't remember which one, but,
It's the stormwater, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
There you go.
That,
When's the fire retention?
This,
that's
oh,
not
Yeah,
the.
there's retention and then there's
so it's, is
phase
this
one.
for,
retention.
is this for the drainage to into this line? Would you know? Or just about it?
It would be noted over there on the left, bottom left, I can't read it.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't
It
think-
looks to be.
That's only phase,
Ridge line.
that's phase one, though, that's not.
Multiple. So there's this one with.
That's phase one. Doesn't show the phase two is still over with south
Yeah.
east. Sorry. Because it doesn't show both roads, it only shows the. Yeah, I'm
He was
surprised.
here the last two times. I'm
Right.
surprised actually that he's not
I
tonight,
know,
but
this is a lot of.
so we'll pass along these questions that are outstanding. Thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Oh, you're very nice, guys. Thank you for listening to me.
Glad-
I
glad
told
to have you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
That's interesting.
But we'll, like I mentioned, find some time to get out there and take a walk too. See this.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. You're welcome to stay. Should you wish to do so.
I'm
If
gonna
not,
obviously need
I
to
know.
check.
you're
See,
welcome.
it's like a French drain.
Okay.
That's what's
yeah.
running through there.
Some outside.
Yeah, so there is a drain that runs
Yeah.
between there and off to the retention, so
Okay.
Yeah.
it should go in there
Yeah.
and through.
You find that too, Matt?
Yeah, I found it on the
Is it on one that I?
it's on one of those, where was it? Just
This is phase one, so it would, what you were talking about, I think, was all the way over to phase two, though.
let's keep going, it's not there. It might be that, it might back up one more.
This was.
It might
the
be-
First one?
Okay, yep, no, that's one.
Okay.
It's this one. So this. It might not be on this one, but the next, but it says HPD, it's got basically like a French drain that runs through
Okay.
and dumps it out there. So they've got to have water. They can't,
Yeah, so
it's
it's-
in the middle.
I'm showing it's on phase one, so yeah, I think you're all, you should get set.
Yeah. Maybe this one. I had to pinch it and bring it way in to read it.
Yeah, that's that one.
If they explained the two ponds. One is to catch the most of the material that comes originally to sink, and then the overflow goes into the second pond to percolate. That first pond, how often does that have to be cleaned, since it catches a lot of, would you know?
I wouldn't think that often. A great example of that is Cork and Modic Road, I think.
Okay, no,
Or that
well,
are two kind
Yeah.
of subsequent ponds, and when it really rains, you'll see
oh,
that overflow
Yeah.
get filled. And that first one,
just for sediment.
yeah, and it's been like that for years, and it does a good job of creating
Yeah.
and working functionally, so.
And
a good example.
returning geese. There's always a-
Yep,
Apparently,
yeah, so they'll,
geese there.
They'll find it.
they'll figure it out.
Yeah,
But, in fact, I think we
I have them
did
on my
a,
roof.
oh.
They land on my roof.
Ah. It-
right,
They look
Their
around. I
GPS,
can't get over
their
it.
GPS isn't so good.
But thank you.
No,
for-
thanks
for,
for
uh,
this.
Coming in for comments.
Appreciate it. Right now.
We'll shift gears to the Hardy subdivision. Mr. Hardy is here. We'll discuss 7590 North Road. Applicant is requesting acknowledgement of a complete application subdivision of the 36.30 acres parcel. The two lots of existing home located on lot R1 and 9.585 acres. Lot R1A consists of the remaining 26.719 acres in a proposed residential home. Thanks for joining us. If you don't mind just giving us an overview of the project, we've reviewed your notes.
Okay,
It's always
we
great to
can
have
do that. I currently live in a house on R1. It's a huge home. It's where I raised my family. I'm an empty nester and my wife passed away last year. It's 4,800 square feet. It was my wife's home. Not mine.
Understood.
Noted.
There's a barn on it. We had horses. It was a great life, but it's time for me to go to the next phase. And I would like to build something much smaller. Quite frankly, the taxes are tremendous on this, and I just don't need that much house. So I have shown on there a 44 by 80 square foot structure. Lot R1A along the driveway. And that's gonna be a barn dominium.
Nice.
880 square foot of home, and the rest of it is for my junk. I have 4 old cars and 70 old gas pumps, and it goes on. I can fill it. What I'm trying to do with the conservation district is, when I developed lot 2, that was before I subdivided it, so I didn't have any conservation district. When I did lot 2, well, I take that back. I had conservation district, half the property went into the conservation district. Lot 2, it's got 5 acres total, and 2.5 is conservation, 2.5 is not. When I sold off lot 3, I did the same thing, but I came back in and relocated some of the conservation district so that each lot had 50% in conservation district. Right now, there's 8 acres of conservation district along the south line of lot R1A. And I'm looking to relocate that 8 acres and put 2.6 acres on lot R1 and fill in between the creek, which has 175 feet of a conservation district, fill in between that and lot R1. That helps to isolate R1, and it opens up R1A a little bit. I don't need to do that to construct. The barn dominium. It would not be within any of the existing conservation district, but I'm trying to make the conservation district a contiguous conservation district rather than have it split throughout the parcels. And I'm trying to make sure that whoever buys R1 doesn't have to worry about anybody getting close to them. I think that's part of the aesthetics of that home right now, is that it's out there by itself.
So are you saying that in the conservation easements currently in lots 2 and 3 would no longer be there? Or
No,
would
they would
be-
remain just as they
Oh,
are,
okay.
not getting touched at all.
So the 2 lots, lot R1 and R1A, there's existing easements?
There's no easement on R1. R1 doesn't exist right now. But I would put 2.6 acres into R1. And that's part of the 8 acres I'm moving off of the south line.
Oh, for this, okay, this is the existing.
Yeah, it's different shading up there. You can
Yeah, I
see
just noticed that too.
hatching and-
Well, one's dots and
Yeah, one's cross hatch,
Hatches.
one's. So that's the two different.
So the lines in lot 3, 2 and 3, and that little triangle, that's existing. And the shading is what you're looking to put in. Right, the shaded area between R1 and R1A, that's what you want to put in now,
Alongside the creek.
alongside the creek.
Yeah, alongside the creek and then
And that kind of
by the driveway and then the. The west side, the
Yeah,
west part of the property.
yeah, this is existing.
Oh, that's way different than that.
Yeah. And so I think this is going away. This will be proposed.
and there is no existing conservation district between lot R1 and the creek,
Mhm.
other than the 175-foot ban that's required.
Buffer.
So I'm filling that in.
So, you know, right now, we're just, I think, acknowledging complete application. But these are good, it's a good time to start having some of these conversations of things that may, you know, be of interest to us. You know, I generally, when we're dealing with the conservation easements, having them be contiguous is important because they're more easily to follow versus random spots all over the place and forget and the markers move. You know, one thing that, you know, I'm not sure how old these existing conservation easements are, but in what markings were required that, but, you know, we do require, town code requires marking now.
When you say markings, excuse me, what you mean, a monument, a stake?
Like a,
There's a
yeah,
little-
4x4.
Yeah, 4x4, and there's a little signage that goes out.
4x4 into the ground?
4x4, or you can we've used rock, large boulders,
Okay.
anything like that.
None of those have any
I
markings.
kind
This
of
was done
thought
in,
that, yeah,
Yeah,
where the home is built was built in 2002. Lot 2 was about the same time, and lot 3 was 2004.
it probably doesn't have.
Right.
So there's no markings out there. You would not know.
Yeah.
right.
But on the new one, that's where you'd be subjected to, so the proposed easement there, that's where you'd have the.
So some of those jagged lines,
Yeah.
you know, it may be easier to straighten them out, so there's just less markings required. Again, not that we have to deal with it today, but more just something to start thinking about.
So I think,
It's like R1, be pretty simple, the way
Yeah.
you got it set, because it's pretty much a rectangle with that little cut. So there'd be markers, is it
well,
100 feet?
So I
100
think
feet
what it
or
is,
turn?
going forward. Under the new conservation, will be the new practice is that when you propose a conservation easement. Every time there's a turn, you have to supposed to mark, so that's usually order. So what we proposed in the past is see like how you have that jagged like that, what they're trying to say is if you were to straighten it out. Even if you have to move somewhere else, so you can continue to have the same square footage of easement. It will be cheaper for you or more convenient for you to have a straight line to follow as opposed to have something like that.
And they need to have a meets and bounds description too, don't they?
Yes.
it, obviously you're trying to follow that 75-foot kind of distance to the creek, so it may be easiest to accomplish this with that kind of those 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the kind of that top section, just
I
flatten
could
that.
certainly eliminate 1 or 2 I see right
Yeah.
away.
Yes.
Yeah. I can make it simpler.
Yeah,
Yes.
may just be,
Yes.
I assume it wouldn't have to do anything with lots 2 and 3.
No, because that's not under review right now.
Yeah,
And would I have to mark the conservation easement where it's up against a property line?
Yes.
Even though the property line,
I think so.
Yes, that's part of it.
and is there a requirement for minimum distance between markers?
Yes, there is. It's in the town code, and I think was it 100 or
I think it's
150?
I think it's 100 or 150 feet.
It's in the code. I don't.
30 or 40 I gotta put in. Two more aren't that big.
Yeah, so every time you have a change of direction or intersection, that's what you.
I mean, this is a big lot, big piece of property.
Yes.
Most of the easements are a lot smaller. So I mean, in the past, people have used, you know, a large enough boulder if they're trying for a certain aesthetic or a
I'm
tree.
sorry, what?
Boulder.
Just a rock?
Yeah, they put a
Yeah.
large rock or even a
It's actually.
distinct tree. a large-
Define a large rock.
About the size of this chair, maybe.
I'm sorry?
What are the size of these chairs here?
Not easily moved,
We're
Yeah,
in
not easily.
Victor, where do I find rocks?
not easily moved.
Bristol.
Yeah.
It should be, but that it's not easily moved so that it would stay. there.
Does the town provide a consistent marker? No.
That are way.
Well, they have the
plaque.
the placards. They'll give you the placards, however many you need or request,
So I got the signs up too?
either or.
Oh, I could put placards up or
Correct.
mark it.
Yes.
Placards would look terrible all over the place.
It's, we've run into the issue of, new homeowners, you know, occupying the easement, mowing it, putting pools in, sheds up, things like that. So the effort here is to obviously maintain that easement as it was established for years to come. So that's the purpose. Understanding that, this would involve quite a few 4x4s and placards.
So you know, it may be worth asking the question, if there's no change to the easements. Because now you're subdividing, would they be grandfathered in, or would you be required to mark the existing ones?
Understood.
Because going through your thinking, you may decide, hey, I don't want to move them. But if, you know, just probably something that question we should find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 175 on the creek has just as many different courses on the north side as it does on the south.
yeah,
So I'm actually probably eliminating the number of markers
Mhm.
by consolidating it and holding it on that one line
yeah.
Yeah.
between our one and our
R1, yeah.
Have you had any thought around what type of easement, how restrictive? Like that?
type of easements, the one.
So the easements could be,
This might be new as well. for him.
Yeah.
so we didn't have the history of what your current easements state. In other words, how much, if any, you could utilize the land. Some easements allow for hiking, picking up
Moving
deadfalls, things like that, seasonal mowing, while others are pretty much can't touch it. So there's kind of everything.
Natural resources. That's what.
I know when I first did this lot, they did call for hiking, but it was public. The public could come on there and hike. And I know first, the public doesn't know it. And I think it was removed, but I don't believe I've got any conditions that at least that I'm aware of on use of the easements. I spend a lot of time in the woods, because that's my happy place, but also the ash trees are all dying. I'm dragging those out and cutting them up.
Yeah.
Beech trees are going now. So I would like to still be able to go in and pick up the deadfalls or cut down dead trees.
Yeah,
So
Understood.
I would say it's site specific,
Mhm.
you know, with particular language for whatever, in that case, the deadfalls or anything that's dead like that. The other question I have, your driveway that's going through there that bisects the two easements, what's your driveway? Is it paved or is it?
No, it's, the first portion from North Road to Lot 3
Mhm.
is about 16 to 17 feet wide, and it's gravel with millings over the top of it.
Okay.
And then the rest of the way out, it narrows down as you go up to 10 to 11 as it goes up to the house, and it's all gravel.
Okay. What I would recommend, because you're going through that easement, rather than trying to mark that, I would write that into the site-specific easement as, you know, the driveway, as long as it's impervious. What's that?
Who's helping you prepare your easement proposal?
So you're saying as a meets and bounds description, just call it the driveway?
We can probably give you some sample language to put in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, whoever you're working with, I assume you're working with a surveyor and attorney on this.
I haven't gotten an attorney involved. I'd like to avoid that whenever I can.
Fair.
And I'm working with Greg McMahon.
Okay.
I've known Greg McMahon for 50 years.
Yeah, I would say we could probably give you some example language to put in there. We've done that in the past before, where we've put in either driveways or a driveway with soil over the top of it. But that'll prevent you from having to put a marker or any kind of delineation mark between those two areas where that driveway goes in.
We're gonna cut down some trees if you want 4x4 markers. I need wood.
Those ash trees.
There you go, actually.
Emerald ash borer, get them to work. Okay.
So, I mean, I think for purposes of today, I think we can acknowledge that the application is complete. But just some food for thought as you get further along in the process. The new requirements for easements, the language.
I assume the town has got something that that's illustrative of what you're looking for that I can.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I am being asked to put an easement in a agreement for the driveway use. Right now, there's no agreement for the driveway use. I maintain the entire length of the driveway. Closing on 78, and that's about done.
Yeah.
Right.
Just curious, what does it look like here? Is it mostly open field? Are there woods? It sounds like you've got some.
The
trees.
larger portion in the southwest corner is all trees, all woods. And the new portion at the back, well, you can see, it was an old Christmas tree farm at one time. So you do have a little bit of field, but it's very minimal. And if you were to go out there, you would see cages with red flagging all over the place because I plant trees all the time. Eventually, it'll all be woods again.
Property.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
The only question I have then is there is no overly the concern to relocate is not an easements, it's not a big deal.
It's kind of,
I realize I have to go before the town planning or before the town board for that.
it can be, and I don't think it's precedent we love setting or have come up all the time. First glance at this property, it's such a large piece. It's, there isn't much, there will be the disturbance for the barn dominium and, but we're not losing a ton of natural resource with the movement of the conservation easements. But I mean, it would be something that would have to be approved, relocating those.
it would make it easier to, as it's contiguous, to maintain that easement rather than now it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, but there's no maintaining of it other than pulling out the dead trees.
But I simply mean if you had a new homeowner in one of those areas, they may or may not know there's an easement there. You know, on one of the southeast lots, for example. So like we've had issues with in the past. that I
Lots
mentioned.
2 and 3.
Yes, exactly. So this your movement of it allows for delineation and just awareness for a new homeowner to not disturb it, whereas someone moved into 2 or 3. Like I had mentioned with those other lots that we had dealt with in the past, without those placards, mowing, pools, sheds, etc. So
I'm sure the people living in lots 2 and 3 have no idea where their conservation
Yeah.
district is.
right. But that's the case. Well, thank you for the summary. I think we've got a good starting point here. There is draft language that we have for that site-specific conservation easement language. Share with you if you don't have it already. And we can,
I do not. I would like to get a copy of that. I assume my next step is to go before the town board. Do I need to have those areas called out, meets and bounds, and is there anything I need to do beyond what I've done?
Sketch right now, right? So
Yeah.
preliminary be next,
Because they're the one they see what is proposing
right?
to do, to consider it. And then it will come back to us again for a second.
Oh, I come back to you again?
Yeah,
Once you establish that and you've established language for the conservation area. We'll come back again.
That's where all the details will come in.
Yeah,
But I don't need to do anything like that for my next meeting. The town board.
I think if you're conveying your area that you're swapping and it's a 1-for-1 swap, that's your best foot forward.
It is a 1-for-1
Okay.
swap.
Yeah,
Definitely.
As long as that those two areas are equivalent, then I think that's your first step that you need to convey over to the town board. And, you know, then it's a question of their eyes, it's gonna be a precedent, it's gonna be what's being
Did you say
protected.
it's gonna be a precedent?
Well, they'll look at past precedent. What's been approved, what hasn't been approved.
I just wanna make sure I don't go before the town board next week. And I haven't prepared something that I need to do other than what I've already done.
so maybe a suggestion is it Lisa?
I'll ask her.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would have told me.
And I think she can also provide copies of the conservation easement language in there, 3-4 pages long. It's not in general, you'll just want to make sure that the language allows you to do what you want to do.
Right.
It's a pretty big area and it's not like you're gonna
Tire recycling plant shouldn't be in
Yeah,
discussion.
right.
leave it out of the language.
Burn them at night.
I
Okay.
think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think you're doing the right things there. Certainly.
I never thought I'd be doing this again.
Yeah, here you are. Well, it's a neat project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
it
the
is.
first barndominium in Victor. I can't recall there being one.
Yeah, when I went into the appraiser's office and said, you got anything that you've done for appraising barndominiums? No.
Good,
Yeah.
Maybe not.
maybe good. Well, good luck with it.
Yeah.
It's a great
Thank you.
project.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure we'll see it again.
yeah, we'll see you again when you get through the planning board and we'll review your easement language for that site-specific easement,
The markers.
the markers.
If, what's your timeline? When do you wanna build?
I'd like to be out of the house tomorrow if I could. There's too many memories.
Sure.
But I would like to be able to at least get the condominium enclosed. So I can spend the winter moving my collections into it. And then sell a house, and then I'll have money to build out the house portion of it. So I'm hoping that I can move stuff in there this fall, early winter.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Good timing.
Sounds great.
My
Thank you.
only concern is that it was much cheaper to do 20 years ago, but it sounds like it's gonna be this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Good luck.
We'll see you next time. All right, we will move on. Last, business approval of the April 2nd minutes. Board review those minutes.
Not here, reviewed them, but I wasn't here.
I had no comments.
Yeah, no comments here.
With the motion to
I'll make a
approve.
motion.
Second, Norman, second by Mr. Phillips. All in favor?
I,
Pass. Great. All right, we will adjourn the meeting at, sorry? Oh, yeah.
We can do it after.
Yeah. At 7, catch up.
so same time, 2 weeks from now.
You betcha.
See you then.